What's up, you guys? It's Steve here, and let's talk about the state of the economy and stimulus, a recession, what's going to be unfolding. This is your breaking news stimulus check update and stimulus package update. Now, we just got to be honest here. Things are not looking good for our economy. Looks like we're going to be entering into a recession. Some are saying we're already in one. We've already had 2 consecutive quarters of receding GDP. And we're hearing that the inflation, the core inflation, it's not slowing down. It looks like there's not going to be a pivot from the Feds anytime soon. We're likely going to see significant increases of interest rates. And you guys, we're going to see how Congress responds to all of this, because we're hearing that this is going to be hitting the economy pretty hard at the end of this year and also going into next. So we will see if they're going to be fulfilling those stimulus promises of $2,000 fourth checks, child tax credits, Social Security increases. All of these we're hearing now are going to be going on past midterms and maybe going into the following year. They're saying that they're still going to be fighting for these, but they're not going to take place till after. Now, we will see. I will keep you up to date. And also, how is this going to be impacting voters' decisions? After 2 years of being strung along with all of these promises and not seeing them fulfilled, are people still going to vote to keep Democrats in power, or are Republicans going to step in and take over? And if they do, then we have to take a look at what are the priorities of Republicans in Congress as well. And you guys, we're getting word across the board. Things are not looking good, and the economy, the state of the economy, is the #1 top concern of the American people right now. Dealing with this inflation and how to just pay for these increased costs of goods, you guys. Let me know your thoughts. But like I said, I'll keep you up to date as Congress responds on a federal level to all of this, and also state, city, county, any resources that are available to you, any types of provisions or stimulus checks. I'll be sure to share them with you, and I'm going to compile them all at www.reliefroadmap.com. Check out that website if you haven't had a chance. That was 3 months of me working every single day, sometimes throughout the night, assembling it all into one place. Also, you guys, let's take a look at this video footage. This is an update from Jake Tapper, as he is saying that right now the president, he's going around, he's making speeches, he's discussing the economy, and he's going to be explaining where things are at. Now, in addition to that, if you appreciate these updates, don't forget, take a quick second, smash that like button for me. Helps out the channel a ton. If you want to stay up to date, I'll keep you up to speed on everything going on. Just hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell. Just save you some time and some research by compiling all the latest stimulus, congressional, and breaking news all into one place. And also, any specific questions for me, hop onto Instagram, shoot me a DM at SteveRam3. And I got a second channel, Steve Ram Finance, if you're interested in learning about growing wealth and personal finance. But with that being said, you guys, let's take a look at this video footage. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.
With less than 3 weeks until the midterm elections, the forecast is doom and gloom on the economic front. And maybe that's why President Biden today gave not 1 but 2 speeches on the economy.
Families are hurting. You've heard me say it before, but I get it.
It's been a rough 4 or 5 years for the country, but a lot of folks here are still struggling. But there's some real bright spots.
I get it. Folks are struggling. One word you didn't hear from the president today, however, recession. Biden did, however, admit a recession was a possibility during our interview last week.
I don't think there will be a recession. If it is, it'll be a very slight recession. That is, we'll move down slightly. Look, it's possible. I don't anticipate it.
But now some of the world's leading economists are shouting the word recession from the rooftops. Credit ratings firm Fitch warned just yesterday that the U.S. economy will sink into a recession next spring. Bloomberg economists now put the odds of a recession at 100% over the next year. 100%. That's pretty confident. Then again, this is a news organization founded by a guy who spent $1 billion on a presidential campaign that lasted 104 days. So perhaps the confidence is in the DNA. But in any case, it's not just El Bloombito. All the members of the Billionaires Boys Club are worried. Here's Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase.
I mean, Europe is already in a recession, and they're likely to put U.S. in some kind of recession 6-9 months from now.
Here's David Solomon, the CEO of Goldman Sachs.
There's a good chance we could have a recession. I think you have to expect that there's more volatility on the horizon.
One of the world's richest men, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, says it's time to batten down the hatches. But even more important than the recession fears of those sitting at the boardroom tables are the worries of those just trying to put food on their kitchen tables. Folks, already struggling, given how inflation has been gobbling up bank accounts nationwide just ahead of Thanksgiving. The average cost of groceries is up 13% since last September. Eggs up more than 30%. Cereal, 16%. Milk and cheese, 15%. And gas prices, of course, hovering just under $4 a gallon on average, and could soon rise again. Now, there's lots of reasons for inflation, but the one that Republicans point to dates back to 2021, when President Biden signed that bill to spend another nearly $2 trillion, that's trillion with a tr, to continue to ease the pain of the pandemic. And that bill included hundreds of billions of dollars in direct checks to Americans. Now, at the time, it wasn't just Republicans. Former Clinton Treasury Secretary Larry Summers warned Biden that this might be too much spending and could lead to the inflation we're seeing now.
I think policy is rather overdoing it, taking very substantial risks on the inflation side.
The basic idea, people were getting money from the government, but there were not enough goods for various reasons, including factories shut down abroad. That all made the price of those goods go up, hence inflation. And we have been here before. Take a trip with me back to the future. 1974, the year Nixon resigned, and the #1 song was Barbra Streisand's The Way We Were. The Way We Were was inflation at more than 12%. President Gerald Ford even came up with a slogan, "Whip inflation now or win." Part of the win campaign, these shiny red buttons. It was a way to inspire Americans to spend less and conserve energy. Spoiler alert, it did not work. And the campaign was mocked as one of the biggest government public relations blunders ever. Ford lost in '76. Economic hard times continued. 3 short years later, President Jimmy Carter called for some American sacrifice to combat a natural gas shortage, all while dressing like Mr. Rogers.
All of us must learn to waste less energy. Simply by keeping our thermostats, for instance, at 65 degrees in the daytime and 55 degrees at night.
55 at night? Brr. I don't control the thermostat in my own house, so good luck with that. But I digress. A few years later, America's inflation rate hit a record high of 14.6%. And voters kicked President Carter out of the White House. Then, of course, there's the lesson of President George H.W. Bush, whose presidency was eventually doomed by a recession in the early 90s. A recession that economists say could be the model for what we are about to go through. We should point out there are a few significant differences. First, unemployment right now is low, really low. And wages right now, they're pretty high. And there are the complications today that we did not see in previous downturns. In China, they have some insanely strict COVID policies, and one case can shut down an entire city and its factories. That clogs up the global supply chain, and that was all before Putin's war in Ukraine started. Now, recession, we have to acknowledge, is a scary word. For many of us, it sends us spiraling back into the deep, dark hole of the economic crisis of 2008. But we're not talking today about a sequel to The Big Short, because that rating from Fitch that we talked about earlier, they are predicting a mild recession, keyword mild. Now, mild still could mean tens of thousands of Americans losing their jobs and small businesses closing and wage cuts, all of which doesn't feel particularly mild if it's happening to you. But the big picture, there's bad, and then there's catastrophic, and no one is predicting catastrophic. The politics of this are unavoidable. The economy is the single biggest issue for voters, some of whom have already cast their ballots. Senator Bernie Sanders was on this show last Friday, and he implies Democrats have spent way too much time running away from this topic. Sanders thinks that's a losing strategy. In other words, he's channeling James Carville, the Democratic consultant who worked to get Bill Clinton elected after that 1990 recession. It's the economy, stupid. Almost as important as the word economy in that sentence is the last word. His message to Democrats who weren't talking about the economy. That's who he was calling stupid.